Hello everyone. Let me do a quick recap of restaurant location lookup demo problem that we covered as part of the previous lecture. Recall that we wrote code within rlookup.py script which accepts one command line argument that is going to be the name of the restaurant for which we want to perform the location lookup. The output is going to be the XY coordinate values for that restaurant. Where is this information coming from? That's coming from the input CSV file restaurants.csv. Please go ahead and pause the lecture video here and launch idle in order to open rlookup.py script file from the previous lecture demo. We'll be going through a couple of executions of this particular script. Recall that you'll have to type Python 3 space rlookup.py. If you're on Windows, you'll have to type Python space rlookup.py. Then we need to type the name of the restaurant as command line argument. What if we decide not to pass command line arguments? Let me go ahead and press enter. That's going to throw index error. That's because we are trying to access the item at index position 1 within the sys.argv list. Keep in mind that sys.argv is a special list which enables us to process command line arguments. The first item within sys.argv is always going to be the name of your script file. In this example, that's going to be rlookup.py. Since we did not pass a command line argument, there isn't an item in index position 1, so Python is unhappy when you index into a non-existing index position. How can we pass command line arguments which contain a space? You'll have to add double quotations around it. For example, let me pass Greenbush space donuts as the restaurant name. The output is going to be 0 and -3 for x and y coordinates. How can we confirm whether this is the correct output? We can just use cat command to display the contents of restaurants.csv and look up the XY coordinate values for Greenbush donuts. Observe that these are the correct values. Are you able to think of another way of obtaining input from user other than command line arguments? Please pause the lecture video here and write a comment in the comment section stating what function enables you to obtain input from user. If you were thinking about the input function, you had the correct answer to my question. Just like input function call produces the data type always a string for the return value, the command line arguments are also going to have string data type. So it is up to us to make any required typecasting conversions within the program. Let me switch to the slide deck. I'm going to talk about improvements to this demo problem. Wouldn't it be nicer if we can get human x and y coordinate locations in order to find the nearest restaurant in terms of the shortest distance between the human and these favorite restaurants around the computer sciences department? That's what we are going to do in version 2. We'll be writing code within nearest.py script. This script is still going to take only one command line argument. We are going to deal with separating this command line argument here into two parts for x and y values. Let me switch to the idle window. We are going to copy paste the code from this rlookup.py file. I'm going to click on file, new file and save it as nearest.py. Let's first deal with command line argument processing. For now, I'm going to comment out the for loop that is iterating over every restaurant row from the CSV list of list data structure. Let me rename the search variable as coord to represent human coordinates. I'm going to call the print function to display the output of type function call on coord. Let's save the program. I'm going to clear the screen. Let me type in Python 3 nearest.py and I'm going to type the command line arguments as 4 and -4 here. Once I do that, we are going to see that the type of the variable coord is string. That's because always command line arguments have string data type. Are you able to think of a specific string method which will enable us to extract the x and the y values here? Please pause the lecture video here and write a comment in the comment section stating which particular string method will be helpful to make the command line processing here. We'll have to use the split method. Recall that the split method takes a separator string as argument. So I'll have to call the split method using coord string. So I'm going to say coord dot split and pass comma as the separator here because we want to separate based on comma, correct? The split method is going to return a list of strings. For now, I'm going to save that into a variable called vals, and let me call the print function to display vals. Observe that we are getting list of strings here, which are the split parts of this particular command line argument. I'm going to teach you a concept called as value unpacking. When you know that a particular list contains a certain number of values, you can directly mention that many number of variables separated by a comma. I know that the vals list is going to contain exactly two values, so I can simply say human underscore x comma human underscore y in place of vals, and this particular concept is called as value unpacking. We need to make sure to convert human underscore x and human underscore y to integers. So I'm going to say human underscore x equal to int of human underscore x and human underscore y equal to int of human underscore y here. Let's think about the distance function. We just need to define Euclidean distance between 2 points which have xy coordinates, correct? I'm sure all of you remember the Euclidean distance formula. That's simply going to be square root of x1 minus x2 the whole squared plus y1 minus y2 the whole squared, correct? Let me define a distance function which is going to include four parameters of x1, x2, y1, y2. I'm going to say x equal to x1 minus x2 to the power 2, y equal to y1 minus y2 to the power 2. Then distance is simply going to be x plus y the whole to the power 0.5, and I can return distance variable. I would strongly encourage all of you to extensively test your functions that you write in an incremental way. I'm going to skip testing this particular function because I know it's going to work. Let me go ahead and save the program. We are going to uncomment the for loop here. We want to be able to find the index and the shortest distance to every possible restaurant. Why do we need the index? Only with the index we'll be able to get the name of the restaurant, which is a totally different field than the XY coordinate values. So I'm going to change my for loop to range based for loop. So I'm going to say for index in range of len of rows. In order to extract one row, I'll have to say rows of index, correct? I'm going to say row equal to rows of index. For now, I'm just going to display row. Let me comment the if condition here so that we can incrementally test this program. Observe that we are getting each row. Our for loop is working. We want to be able to extract the x and y location for every restaurant, correct? So I need to be really careful here. I have to typecast the row of one value into an integer. Why is that the case? CSV always has data type as string for all the fields. I'll have to repeat the same for y coordinate value, which is going to be at index position 2 in the variable row. For now, let me just display x and y to verify that we are getting the correct output. Looks like we are getting the correct output. What do we want to do with these x and y location values? We want to be able to compute the distance between the human location and these x and y points, correct? So I'm going to call the distance function. Let me pass x as the first argument, human underscore x as the second, y as the third argument, and human underscore y as the fourth. I'm going to capture the return value into a variable called cur underscore distance. Let's just display cur underscore distance to verify that the program is working well so far, not that we are going to actually verify the distances. What do we want to do with these distances? We want to search for the minimum distance, correct? So let's define best underscore distance as none outside the for loop, and let's define best underscore index variable and initialize that to a value of none outside the for loop. The if condition is supposed to be taking care of the fact that you have initialized none value. So I'm going to say if best underscore distance equal to none, or some other search condition here. In the search condition, we want to compare cur underscore distance with best underscore distance, correct? How do we want to compare those? We want to check if cur underscore distance is less than best underscore distance. That's because we want the nearest restaurant to the human being. If the current distance is lesser than the previously known best distance, we want to be able to update best distance to the cur underscore distance value, and we are going to update best underscore index to the current index, which is going to be the index of that particular restaurant's row. Let me go ahead and remove the if condition from the previous version, and for now we are going to display best underscore distance and best underscore distance underscore index here. Let me save the current version of the program. Let's try to run it. Looks like we are getting name error in line number 39. Let's look at line number 39. I see I am using best underscore distance underscore index. It's supposed to be best underscore index instead. Let me run the program again. Looks like we are still getting the output from current distance print function call. Let me remove that. Let me rerun the program. We are getting the distance is 1.0 and the best restaurant index is 0. What we need is the name of the best restaurant index, correct? How can we get the name? If you have the index, you can always say rows of that particular index, correct? So first of all, you'll have to index into that particular row by saying rows of best underscore index to get the restaurant row. Within that, you want the name of the restaurant, which is going to be the first column value, correct? So let me go ahead and remove the second indexing here first and show you the output. So that's going to return the row for the McDonald's. In that row, we want just the name of the restaurant. So I'm going to say rows of best underscore index of 0. Looks like we're getting McDonald's as the output, which is supposed to be the correct output. Let's try to pass -2 comma 0 as the command line argument and see if we are getting set as the output here. Looks like we are getting set as the output here. I'll wrap up this video here. That will be it for today's lecture.